So it's my pleasure with being with you guys today, especially the young generation who are going to attach to us. And I'll be talking on something on a different scenario on cataract surgery. We all know cataract is the largest group of disorders where we do surgery in the eye. And before I start, I am very thankful to institution like All India Institute of Medical Sciences, which has given me this platform where I could do some work and speak to you regarding the developments which has occurred in last so many decades. And I acknowledge the efforts of my colleague, Dr. Manpreet Kaur, who's done a wonderful work for Institute and helping me in various aspects. RP Center, which is now almost touching 60 years of existence, and been one of the pillars of institution of blindness control program of this country, and is an apex institute for a government of India in terms of NPCB is concerned. So let me take you through the concept of a femtosecond laser cataract surgery. There is, if you say this has two parts. The first is application of femtosecond laser for doing a certain things, and mainly the pre-fragmentation of a nucleus. The second part is completion of the entire surgery, which is phacoemulsification surgery. Indeed, if you look into its existence almost now more than a decade, almost touching 2 decades, it has been a useful adjunct to the conventional phacoemulsification surgery, where we have an advantage of automation of various surgical steps, which makes things more predictable in terms of achieving a certain steps of surgery. Also, the effective lens position in a capsular bag may be better with these application of lasers. Now it has expanded its application to pediatric cases also. And definitely, because of laser, it has a more enhanced precision in application in different areas that start from cornea, lens capsule, nucleus, and safeguarding the various intraocular tissues which can be damaged with the application of laser. And it has a definite indications for making things more safer in a challenging case scenarios, where you can do various things without opening the eyes also. So I would say it is not the cataract surgery with laser, it is actually femtosecond laser assisted phacoemulsification surgery. So I have termed this as a flaps rather than a flex, because it is not a cataract surgery, a broad term which includes so many other types of cataract surgery. And femtosecond laser will assist only in a phacoemulsification surgery. So with this background, let me take you through its history-wise. You all know femtosecond laser came into ophthalmic practice in year 2001 for a LASIK flap making. In 2009, it came existence with a cataract surgery platform and termed as a flex or a femtosecond laser assisted cataract surgery. So basically, this is a neodymium glass laser, which is 1053 nanometers in near infrared wavelength. It has a focus, ultra short pulses of 10 to minus 15 seconds, which will eliminate the collateral damage to the tissue, because heat generation is hardly there in these cases, which is seen in a slower examined laser or a neodymium YAG laser, where you have a lot of heat generation. So looking to the laser tissue interaction, which we have to know for our students, one is thermal interaction, second is photoablation, and third is photo diffraction. You all know these are 3 basic types of tissue interaction which happens in laser application onto a particular type of tissue. This femtosecond laser technology is basically for photo disruption, whereas pulses of laser are placed into a focused area of a tissue concern, and they form a laser-induced optical breakdown, which forms a plasma. Once it forms a plasma, it forms a bubble, which cavitation bubble, which enlarges and coalesces with the other bubble to cause a separation of tissue. So this causes a unique focus area of concentration of these plasma, which cause a cavitation bubble, which will separate the tissue without causing a thermal burn to the adjacent tissue. It has a very, very sharp application of this laser, makes a cut or a separation of tissue. So this is how it works out. If you look into this is a laser spot, And there's a separation between two lasers, which is called spot separation or a spot size. If you have a larger spot size, the spot separation has to be bigger. Therefore, the energy will be much more and the repeatability will be less. For a smaller spot size and smaller distance between two spot size, you require a smaller amount of energy used in these cases. They'll be more precise and it causes lesser repetition, higher repetition rate with a less energy. So these are two types of application of lasers onto the tissue, which we are going to see in these cases. So what has been the challenge? If you look into science of a femtosecond laser development in cataract surgery, there are 4 or 5 basic things which we have to understand here. One is it has to go a deeper level of penetration or a treatment in a cataract surgery, right from cornea to a lens. Therefore, it requires a longer focal length and it requires a larger spot size also. It has a higher ablation energy required because your different tissues are ablated with this dispersion of a tissue with laser application. Therefore, it has a more powerful laser. And for cornea and the incision which we do cornea, you require larger field. So once you require larger field, you have to have a beam delivery to approach the entire length of cornea. And also, it has to also localize the lens capsule. Therefore, there has to be a fine precision to require three-dimensional imaging of a capsule so that you don't damage the capsule or don't cause unnecessarily impact on the capsule as such. Then you have a proximity of delicate tissue like corneal endothelium, posterior capsule. So it has to establish a safety zone. So these are 4 or 5 things that are very, very important. Therefore, for visualization, you require a 3D imaging devices attached to the laser application, which if you compare between corneal lasers of femtosecond application and cataract lasers, the basic thing is 3D imaging is not there in a corneal application while it is there with a cataract application, because you have to look into every structure in a 3-dimensional view so that you don't damage the structure. Wavelength wise, they are same. Pulse duration will be more with the cataract application. Pulse energy will also be more. You can see it ranges from 8 to 15 microjoules. And repetition rate will also be higher in the cornea because you have a smaller spot size in the cornea, a slightly higher spot size in the cataract. Therefore, repetition rate is slightly less there. Scanning diameter, you can see 1 millimeter depth in cornea, but if you look into a cataract application, it has to go up to 8 millimeter depth. So you require a system which can really reach up to that stage. So just to show you a surgery before I start with the entire discussion on how it goes on. This is a cataract grade 3, grade 4 cataract where we have done incision with the laser. How easy it is open. First, you have to go radially to open up the vertical incision. Then with the spatula, you can enter and smoothly you can open the entire incision. And subsequently, you can inject viscoelastic so that you can maintain the anterior chamber space and remove this free floating capsule subsequently after you open the site incision also. So these are little corneal incisions, but with experience, we can make incision as you do for routine cataract surgery. Near limbal incision can be done in lasers also. Now you can see that I'm removing, this is a Lensex laser. This is a free floating capsule. I'll do a dimple down technique, hold it and takes out. So simple it is to take out a capsule. Subsequently, you can do a hydrodissection and see how we do it. There's already a creation of laser bubble delineation. There's already chop already initiated. It can be opened very, very easily with slight holding, and amount of laser required will be so less in these cases. So you have a pre-fragmentation, pre-capsulotomy done, and subsequently entire application of laser will be less. Therefore, effective phaco time is going to be less in these cases. Subsequently, you can remove the entire cortex either with your phaco handpiece. If you are you can see the visible fibers, although you can do a hybrid technique or you do a bimanual technique to take out all these epinuclear complex in these cases. And subsequently, you can see how clear the capsule looks like, and you can do an implantation IOL in these cases. Therefore, I think before we start, we need to know what would be a difference in a patient selection in these cases. There is no difference between routine cataract surgery patient selection and femtosecond application. As I said in the beginning, it is the initiation of a cataract steps. Only thing to take into consideration will be a patient with a pacemaker in situ, or patient pregnant or nursing, or any other systemic condition which can be difficult to adjust, because most laser rooms may not have cardiac monitoring facilities. Therefore, patient with serious cardiac disorder, other things may not be suitable for a femtosecond application to begin with. But there's certain areas, patient with a severe dry eye disease, because this can increase the dryness sometimes. Too much ectasia and cornea, very steep, very flat corneas can be difficult sometimes. These are relative contraindication of these patients, but you can do all types of cataract patients with femtosecond application. So surgery-wise, there are three areas to look into: preoperative assessment and the management of these cases, then the femtosecond stepwise, and phaco. So you all know about the phaco steps. For pre-op, there's nothing different than routine cataract surgery, and dilatation is must, because the pupillary dilatation has to be bigger than the application of laser for doing capsulotomy or fragmentation of nucleus. So therefore, it has to be more than at least 5 millimeter to achieve a good application laser. Once you program the entire process of cataract, that is customization of your incision, capsulotomy, and nuclear fragmentation type. So you have to dock the eye with the interface and then start the surgery in these cases. So there are two types of interfaces normally seen with the laser systems available in the world. The first is the contact or applanation type of interface, where it will applanate the cornea. Second, a non-applanating, non-contact interfaces, which are basically water or liquid interfaces. So both have the advantages and disadvantages. Contact applanation will have more pressure onto the cornea. You can have folds coming up in a very steep or very flat cornea. Therefore, many newer devices have an interface in between also, like a soft contact lens. They are normally smaller diameter, fit smaller, smaller orbit also. Therefore, they're more useful for our smaller eyes also, like Asian eyes. While the pressure will be slightly more because you're applanating the entire limbal area. While liquid interface has a better application because there's less pressure, less IOP rise, and unfortunately, this requires slightly larger aperture because you have to fit the entire device. Just to show one small video how we take this interface. So this is the applicator or interface, contact interface. This is a LensX laser system. You have to attach the interface with the laser delivery system. With the eye open up, patient has to look into the light and gently go towards the cornea and applanate. Once you have a suction on, you can see the suction is being generated now. And there's a light pressure. With that, you have programmed. First, we do a capsulotomy, then do a fragmentation of a nucleus, then incisions. You can see the depth has been assessed. In this case, we have done a nuclear fragmentation, and this is the incision we have made. So this is very, very fast application here. This is a liquid interface. You can see here, the liquid is filling the entire chamber here, and the contact lens will then touch the cornea. So you have a liquid interface. Therefore, the corneal curvature or pressure doesn't happen in these cases. The chances of laser application to anterior capsule is much simpler and better. With applanation, you can have sometimes these subconjunctival hemorrhages, which is less with the liquid interface, slightly more with the contact interface, but they are quite less nowadays as such. The second important part would be how do we deliver the laser in 3 different planes. As I said, one is the cornea for incisions. Second is the capsulotomy in the anterior capsule, and third is the nucleus fragmentation. So all 3 structures require different size of lasers, different energy of laser, and different spot size. So you can see here, this is called variable numerical aperture, which is automatically adjusted by the laser system. For cornea, it requires a larger aperture so that you can apply the cornea in the peripheral, laser in the peripheral area. Then for a capsule, it is slightly smaller. Then for a lens, you require a smaller aperture so that you can have a very fine application of laser. So this variable aperture gives you a modification of a laser spot and laser cuts in the entire system from the cornea to up to the lens nucleus. Integrated three-dimensional imaging can be done with the OCT system, or it can be with the in the LENSAR, you have a confocal structured illumination system are there. So once you do have a 3D dimensional imaging, suppose this is the nucleus is image, there's no tilt. So your laser application is absolutely safe from a periphery and for a posterior anterior capsule as well. If there's a tilt, so this three-dimensional imaging will give us a tilt, and we can adjust these laser application correctly. So imaging is very, very important for our application laser. Safety zone has to be there for these cases. As I said, if you have a safety range for a capsulotomy, that is from the pupillary area to both anterior and posterior to the anterior capsule. The safety zone is around 500 micron there. Similarly, for a nucleotomy also, you have to have a safety range from the posterior capsule also. So this is the image guided system, which is the LensX laser. First, we plan the capsulotomy, which is normally depends on the pupillary size. The ideal size is from 4.9 to 5.1 to 5.2, because there will be a certain enlargement or stretching of capsule in these cases after application of laser. The second would be creation of incisions. You can see after fragment, you can see this is the main incision, and these are side port incision, or you can do arthropedic keratotomies or a laser relaxing incision also, depending on to the amount of corneal toricity or astigmatism patient has. Subsequently, you can see that nucleotomy pattern can be adjusted. We normally leave 500 micron offset from the anterior capsule and around 800 to 1000 micron offset from the posterior capsule, so that it doesn't damage the important structure, because you have already done the capsulotomy, would be doing capsulotomy before nucleotomy in these cases. So you have to safeguard this area also. So see, this entire capsule is imaged in such a manner. You have a strip of capsule. This is the anterior capsule you can see here, and we have a laser application safety zone ranging from a 200 micron to 500 micron. So this is 200 micron above and below, so that laser spots hits in all 360 degree of a capsule in these cases. This is the incision placement in these cases, which will show you depth and size of incisions and the pattern of incision also. So this is what I was saying. The capsule is imaged in such a manner, sparingly image is done, and you have a strip of capsule being imaged for a OCT picture for application. So it has a laser application start like a spiral, start from one area, then goes all around and completes the entire laser application. Therefore, there's no repetition of laser on the same area, or it doesn't miss the area in the anterior capsule. These are various studies people have published of the capsule with the femtosecond laser, absolutely circular. This is a manual capsulotomy done. And people always debate the strength of these capsulotomies as compared to the capsular axis, and people have found they're equally strong. And we have also experienced, we can put different devices also for stretching the capsule. We can put lens hooks or iris hooks. Even that can be retained very, very nicely in these cases. These are the capsulotomy types described by Jolton Nagy, who was the first person to describe the clinical application of cataract laser in a cataract surgery. Type 1 is an absolute free floating capsulotomy. Type 2 is a little bit of micro additions, where normally seen a difficult scenario. Type 3 incomplete capsulotomy, where you require a lot of manual manipulation. Type 4 irregular incomplete capsulotomy in these cases. This is, we have published a small case report of application of different lasers. Apart from capsulotomy, it can also give you a marking for a toric lens implantation also. You can see this is a LENSAR device where you can have a little bit of a notch in either side, but this will be in particular axis of toric lens implantation, and this is going to be quite helpful in those scenarios where if you don't have image guided systems. So we have compared the Callisto system, which gives a toric orientation, with this notch, which is normally a hub you see in LENSAR laser. It was very accurate and outcome was quite nice. You can see these 3 dots of a toric IOL matching with the tongue of a laser application. So these are new concepts in application of laser into the capsulotomy wise. This can also be integrated into an image guided system like Varion can be integrated with Lensex laser, which takes care of the pre-doc registration, post-doc registration will tell you how much intorsion has or extortion has occurred. Accordingly, you can reorient your incisions and recorrect your cyclotorsion, which is there in these cases. So this is one case. Pre-doc was 0 cyclotorsion. Post-doc, there was a 3-degree cyclotorsion. So this automatically adjusts your incision. This is very, very important for arcuate incisions. You can see these are 2 arcuate incisions. If there's a torsion, the incision will change its size, its location, and the effect will be totally different. The image guided system can also be attached with these laser delivery systems. So if you look into other aspect, I have covered the capsulotomy part, which is nicely customized, the laser application, size-wise, shape-wise, centration, and the new device can also have a toric marking also. Similarly, for a nucleus fragmentation, which is a second advantage of a femtosecond laser in cataract surgery, you can do a softening of the nucleus. So this will start from a various types of pattern. You can have chop patterns, you can have a cylinder pattern, you can see multiple cylinders can be made, or you can hybrid between chop and cylinder, or you can have just a matrix or grid pattern. So these patterns will definitely going to cause softening of the nucleus so that you don't have to do too much of energy delivery during nucleus emulsification, and easily you can take out the entire hard or soft nucleus on these cases. The various studies had documented there is almost reduction of almost 39 to 40% effective energy use in phaco surgeries. And this will be much more useful in cases where you have a compromised endothelium or a cataract which can cause more energy delivery, requires more energy delivery, and can cause endothelial cell loss like a very, very hard cataract. So this is the advantage for delivering this thing. We had compared 2 types of nucleus softening techniques of laser. One was a chop, and second was a matrix or grid pattern in grade 3, grade 4 cataracts. We have found that if you make a grid pattern, that decreases the energy further by almost 40 to 50%. The grid pattern, where it's softening is much more effective in these cases. Corneal incision wise, they are very nicely reproducible. You can see this is one of our patients in the intraoposite. You can see a biplanar incision in these cases. Effective closure after surgery, you can see here. And in a post-op period also, you can see very nice orientation. So these incisions will be slightly pre-limbal incision in these cases. You can see a post-op aosocity giving a very nice attachment, both anteriorly, and a position is so good in a posteriorly also. So we have compared, if you compare manual incisions with the keratome blades and the femtosecond laser induced created incisions, we have found that femtosecond laser created incisions are much better in terms of they have a lesser chances of descending membrane detachment in the wound side, especially cases where you have difficult scenarios, and the apposition also better. You can see a 3-planar incision can be done in the femtosecond. While a manual surgery, you have a biplanar incision or uniplanar incision. The chances of descending membrane detachment at the wound side is slightly more with the manual surgeries or manual keratome incisions in these cases. Apart from a corneal incisions, you can also do arcuate keratotomy. You can see there are 2 arcuate incisions being done in this thing. Normally now, this is inside the stroma without disrupting the anterior layers of a stroma or a capsule, but these are less effective. Nowadays, we do a complete incision from anterior to posterior, around 85% depth of cornea. So this is how it looks like. This is one of our case where we had done the arcuate keratotomy in this patient. This is the incision area, and this is the area where we done arcuate keratotomy. You'll just see subsequently, because you can see this is a large incision here. So these incisions can be again seen next day, first post-op day. If many time we don't open the incision on the table, we assess the patient after 1 or 2 days. If the astigmatism doesn't get corrected effectively, you can open this incision in a post-op period also. So that's the advantage of a femtosecond arcuate keratotomy as such. Initially, there were a lot of debate on a capsular block syndrome with these cases. Many people have reported the posterior capsule giving way during the nucleus emulsification or hydro procedure in these cases. And that was basically, we did not really understand the concept of making these bubbles come away from the central area. You can see this is a free floating capsule being removed in this particular case. So these are bubble areas which has been here. You can see multiple bubbles. This is a softer cataract. So what we'll do, we'll try to inject fluid from either side so that bubbles get shifted to periphery. You can see the entire bubble has shifted to periphery. Now you compress this area and the bubble will come out. You can see the bubble has got released here. So make sure that you don't push the bubbles to the center and they get entrapped in the central area, increase the pressure in the posterior capsule in these cases. Other important factor is meiosis happening with the laser application. That is normally seen in a smaller pupil where you can damage the pupillary area with the laser application sometimes. And we all know that with the laser, there will be a definite damage to the blood aqueous barrier and causes a sudden release of prostaglandins, which causes inflammation, pain, and a pupillary constriction also. You can see here, this is one of my patients after application laser. The pupil was 8 millimeter to begin with. This has come down to almost 5 millimeter. And this is one case, it's almost 1 millimeter pupil size here. So things become very, very difficult. So what should we be doing anything different in a preparation, a pre-op preparation of a femtosecond laser patients? So what we do for routine cataracts also. Apart from the mydriatics or antibiotics, we normally give 1 to 3 days before the surgery. We also add non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drops, especially ketorolac type of drops, which will decrease this release of prostaglandins after application of laser, maintain the good pupillary dilatation, and your surgery can be more effective in these cases. So these are various laser platforms which are seen with visible in a world market. Catalyst, Lensex with Alcon, Catalyst from Optomedica, Lensar with now Lensar Link, and Victus. This is with now with AMO, Victus, and these all have a same type of energy application. The interface, as I said, few have a liquid interface, a few have a contact interface. Docking is always better with the liquid interfaces. And imaging type is also important. Some have OCT, some have ray tracing technologies. And OCTs have now also become high definition OCTs in these cases. This device, which is GMER, has a little advantage because it is a compact mobile workstation where it can be moved across the OTs. And also has a liquid interface. It has overlapping pulses. So you require low pulse energy with a high repetition rate. Smaller the spot size would require less energy and less damage to collateral areas. And the OCT gives a very nice picturization. Just to give an idea, the amount of pressure generated during suction and the completion laser is hardly any time. Because the Catalyst has 3 minutes, Lensex only 1.35 minutes, and Victus is 3 minutes. So it is less than 4 minutes is the time required for the laser application in femtosecond laser device. So pressure generated doesn't give you too much of a damage to the structure, especially the optic nerve head, which is much more with the devices used for a laser application in a corneal surgery like femtosecond flap making, where the pressure generation will be more than 135 millimeter mercury sometimes, and it can go up to 1 to 2 minutes, sometimes more than that also, and that can knock off the optic nerve function, which is less with the femtocataract application. What about the difference between outcomes of femtosecond laser and conventional phacoemulsification? So we know that visual outcome-wise they are similar. People have not really compared the quality of vision between the two, which we always talk about the effective lens position, especially for premium eyewears like multifocal, trifocal, toric lenses. Better endothelial safety. I think this is a major factor which is going towards a femtosecond laser application, because you have a lesser energy required during the emulsification, you have a more safety in the endothelium, and more precision in anatomically wise incision, capsulotomy, and nuclear fragmentation. Similarly, complication-wise, there's no difference between the complications in an experienced hand. There are a few studies saying that they are equally good. And this is a study where they've done a meta-analysis of almost more than 2,000 cases. And they found the femtosecond laser was safer and more effective in decreasing the endothelial cell loss. I think that is one important area we have to look into. Because in cataract surgery, we are worried about two areas. One is the damage to endothelium, second is damage to posterior capsule. And both can be disastrous in a patient who undergoes normal cataract surgery. And the rehabilitation can be prolonged in such cases where you have more damage. The effective lens phaco time is very less in a femtosecond laser, which will ultimately take you to the better management of cataract, especially harder cataracts. As I said, patients with a poor endothelium or a poor endothelial function, femtosecond laser application, assisted surgeries will have a better outcome. So this was the background of femtosecond. We started with the science of femtosecond as well as the laser applications, various devices, various types of interfaces, various results of outcomes of these cases. Now let me take you to the few of areas where we feel it has a definite advantage over routine standard phacoemulsification or conventional phacoemulsification. So first would be intumescent white cataracts. You all know intumescent white cataracts normally will come with a raised interlenticular pressure, and they can have a different morphology. Like this is a case which has may have a raised interlenticular pressure and a hard nucleus, softer cataracts, Morgellons type of cataract, or a sclerotic type of cataracts. But how do we know these cases have a raised interlenticular pressure? So that can be assessed by either an anti-segment OCT pre-op or intra-op OCT, which can delineate the entire pattern of the type of hydration of a cortex inside, which may be totally fluid, which may be totally hydrated. The fibers may be totally intact or may not be intact. So this is our publication, one of the first description, intra-op description of white cataracts and their dynamics during surgery. Type 1, you can see a convexity is there, raised convexity, and their fibers are uniform here. There are not much of fluid clefts. So these cases do very well with the capsulotomy. Type 2, you have raised convexity of anterior capsule. Their fibers are hydrated. They're continuously from one into other end, and the clefts are in between. So these clefts are not going to get released when you do a puncture in a capsule in these cases. These are cases the lenticular pressure will remain high even after doing a capsular opening also. Type 3, you can see here large clefts, few fibers. As soon as you make an incision, the milky fluid doesn't come, but you have a turbid fluid coming in these cases. Type 4 is a totally liquefied cortex. As soon as you make a puncture, entire fluid comes out. So this has a significance in a routine manual surgery. Also has a significance in a femtosecond application also. So femtosecond application, you may have a raised or fluid, no fluid, but gives a very nice capsulotomy, and you have a very nice outcome of these cases after nucleotomy for a placement of IOL in these cases. So just to show one type of white cataract, where I had planned for a 6 radial cuts. This is a chop pattern and a 4.9 capsulotomy in these cases. So if you see here, you still have a raised convexity of anterior capsule. You can see this iris diaphragm, and this is a lens diaphragm, which is higher than the iris diaphragm. And you can see here, clefts are seen just below here. So this is a patient, as soon as you make an opening, the fluid might come out. And if you see the anterior capsule also, there's a little bit of ragged anterior capsule. So just see how effective laser application will come in this particular case. So once we program now, the laser is going to hit, just see how the release of pressure happens with the laser application. This, you just saw here, the entire thing came like something bursting from behind. So once you have this disruption, the laser application, the flatness of capsule changes. So you may have a chances of a little bit of micro adhesion in these cases. The nuclear fragmentation is quite tough in these cases because laser doesn't penetrate in these cases. If you see here, I'll take you to the routine surgery here. All cases in white cataract, despite laser application, we stain the capsule because some area of adhesion would be there in these cases. So this has two areas of adhesion. One is inferiorly here and one is superiorly. So I'll hold it with the microfaucet and rotate my hand as you do for routine capsulotomy to release those small micro adhesions. And therefore, you will have a very nice opening in these cases. So white cataracts, we need to be very careful seeing how these cases are. This is another case, we have a large collapse in the anterior capsular, subcapsular area. Again, here also, the fluid will come like a blast. You can see here coming from all around. So this patient will also have a chances of microadhesion as such. The same technique will be used here in these cases. So this is how white cataract behaves with the raised interlenticular pressure. And this is our publication way back where we compared manual and femtosecond application. This you can see a femtosecond disruption of capsule happening because of release of pressure. While manual cases, we do a small capsulotomy first, aspirate the pressurized cortex, then do an enlargement. So this is a dual step capsulotomy in these cases. But you compare the mean diameter capsulotomy and vexus is better with the femtosecond application, and the circulatory index is also better with femtosecond application. So that's the advantage of getting safe capsulotomy in a difficult scenario of white cataracts. Though extension does happen in a manual surgery also, but in femtosecond laser, we have not found any extension happening in these cases. These are some of the cases after application of laser in white cataracts. The second critical case where femtosecond would have advantage is the posterior polar cataracts. We all know it has a higher chance of disruption of posterior capsule during surgery. And we avoid hydrodissection and do a hydrodelineation in cases and do a layer by layer phaco in all these cases. But decision has to be made by surgeon in which case they can do hydrodissection, in which case they have to avoid hydrodissection in all regards. So that is basically based on your straight time examination to assess the posterior capsule carefully. Like this patient, this particular eye has a disrupted posterior capsule. You can't do a hydrodissection in these cases. You have to do hydrodelineation. Similarly here, a thick nucleus, posterior capsule is not delineated well. You will have to avoid hydrodissection in these cases. So we do an anterior segment OCT beforehand to assess the clarity of posterior capsule in these cases. And we also do intra-op OCT in these cases to see. This is our classification published recently in JCRS, where we have formed three types of posterior polar cataract appearance by OCT in this, avoiding the open capsule in these cases. If you see here, this is a type 1 where we have posterior polar disc and the entire capsule right from the periphery to center is clearly delineated. This is a type 2, you have a posterior polar disc. Periphery is well delineated, the capsule, but central area is not clearly delineated. And type 3 where the disc is larger, you can see a large disc, but the entire capsule right from the periphery to center is not delineated. So these are high risk cases. So just see the video of one of the, to understand how effectively we do surgery in these cases. Small video, this is doing a hydro dissection here. If you see hydro delineation we are doing first, sorry, delineation here. So you can see a delineation of nucleus from the epicortex. This is the epicortical cushion. This is a fluid here. So you already have almost 1,000 microns of epinucleus. This is a hydrodelineation here. This is a type 1. So we have done a hydrodissection also because we could delineate the capsule beforehand. So this is the hydrodissection space. So that's the advantage of seeing the entire thing which is not visible in the microscope, how much delineation, how much dissection, how much spacing you have done in these cases. What happens after nucleotomy in these cases. So I'm doing a nucleotomy here now. Stop and chop technique is a grade 2 to 3 nucleus. And the chopping also, you can see the epicortical cushion is there and the capsule is prevented from damage directly. And this is after the complete nucleotomy, thick epicortical cushion is still safeguarded. Once you remove the epicortex, you can see the posterior capsule clearly delineated in such cases. So that's the advantage of OCT in these cases. So what about femtosecond application? Can you modify the entire thing, or can you replicate the manual surgery in these cases? So this is my publication 2015 in JRS hybrid technique we have described for posterior polar cataract, where we do 6 radial cuts and 2 safety rings. So this is a hybrid technique of a multiple ring and chop pattern, which gives you a block of nucleus. And you can remove block by block, central, mid-peripheral, peripheral blocks, and leaving the epicortic till the end. And surgery becomes very, very safe in these cases. You can see we'll put a laser here, 4.9 millimeter capsulotomy being done. Now, subsequently, you can see the posterior capsule can be delineated in this OCT also. You can detect the open posterior capsule in these cases. Recently, Dr. Mahipal group has described this OCT of femtosecond can also give you that. So you have a 6 radial incisions and 1, 2, 3 rings of nucleus. If you see in the subsequently on the tape, 3 nucleus will be removed. Now I have all blocks, 1, 2, 3 blocks, and I'll remove one by one. First, I'll release the pressure because we have not done any hydro procedure here. Bubbles are taken away. Once you separate the incision, bubbles comes out safely. So femtosecond laser, because there's an automated delineation happening, you don't require to do a hydro procedure in these cases. That again safeguards the posterior capsule. Now I've taken one block here. This is a second block, third block. So similarly, I can remove block by block without causing stress to the posterior capsule, which is adherent with the epicortex in these cases. You can see this adherent block. So that's the advantage of these cases with femtosecond application. Same thing can be done. I have filled the chamber with the dispersive viscoelastic, do IA, and subsequently do a cortex removal. I can see a nice capsulotomy and preserve posterior capsule in these cases. So that's the advantage of a difficult scenario. Subluxated is one of the major indications of femtosecond is subluxated cataract. Various causes can be there. Traumatic, this is the best one for being a phaco, and this is our technique described in the Indian Journal. You can see this video also there. So this is a subluxated case where journals are broken, lens is tilted. In these cases, as soon as you make an incision, entire lens diaphragm comes up, and vitreous will come out, and things will make difficult. And doing a rexis is also difficult in the open chamber, and once you start phaco, lens can drop down subsequently. So how does femtosecond help in these scenarios? You can see before opening the eye, we can make a capsular opening. You can see a capsulotomy being done with a laser. No dynamics have changed in the anterior chamber here. So that's the advantage. And customization can be done with the size. You can change the shape and size of a capsule also. Second will be a nucleus fragmentation. You can see a fragmentation being done. Softening of nucleus has been done. And the incision subsequently can be done, main and sideboard incision. So 3 things we have achieved before opening the eye: capsulotomy, fragmentation, softening, and incisions. And this is one of our patients. You can see this video which describes things beautifully here. There's a subluxation is large, almost 90-degree subluxation in this area, 4 o'clock hours. So I'll shift my capsulotomy away from the subluxated area so that I'm in a larger area of anterior capsule. You can see I'll change my dimensions. You can see there's a tilt in a lens which tells you that there's a subluxation. And there was a vitreous in anterior chamber also. You can see this is a vitreous block. You can see here large area. And the tilt here, this distance from iris to capsule is much more. You can see laser application here. The bubble is created, generated, which is looking little bubbly because of vitreous being there. Incision can be opened now. I make a posterior limbal incision for subsequently safeguarding the lens capsule or supporting the lens capsule during fragmentation. Stain your capsule, take out your capsule which are free floating. I'm using an iris hooks to strengthen my support with the lens. Inject triamcinolone, do a vitrectomy because there was a vitreous in antechamber. Don't try to do any manipulation of a nucleus without doing a vitreous cleaning of from the antechamber in a cases with the vitreous in antechamber here. Then I do a same technique you saw in the posterior polar. No hydrodelineation, no hydrodissection, but I could do an entire nucleus emulsification in this case without any difficulty. Then use a bimanual to aspirate the cortex. So once you aspirate the cortex, Then you can put a CTR in this case, which is 11-13 millimeter CTR in adult patients. This will support their back, strengthen the peripheral areas, and because this is a traumatic case, the remaining journals are going to be stronger. They're not going to lose out like cases with pseudo-exploration or hypermature cases. There things can be difficult. So after completion also, I've injected transdermal to see if any vitreous stacks are there. Do a vitrectomy and make sure you remove the vitreous from all incision areas, because these are areas where vitreous stack can be there. So this is the end of surgery. You can see how effectively you can achieve results in these cases. This is the first day post-op for same patient here. This is a result of last series of cases by Dr. Achi from Singapore, where she could succeed in almost 90% of the cases of a different type of subluxation with a femtosecond, preserving the capsular bag in these cases. You can see this is one of my patients where I had almost hanging cataract, but I could do a femtosecond laser here, like this type of patient, and did a scleral fixation subsequently. So a small incision advantage was there. This is a hard cataract where I said we do a grid pattern, which is normally 350 micron grids, and we do a 2 plane of grids and 8 1 millimeter incision apart from the grid, which is 4 millimeter. You can see we'll put a laser here. This is the area of identification for fragmentation of nucleus, and 4.9 millimeter anterior capsular capsulotomy being done. Subsequently, we'll do a fragmentation. And the entire procedure, as I said, is a very, very fast, take less than 2 minutes. This color after application of laser tells you how hard is your cataract. You have a darker golden color, this is a very, very hard nucleus. Or you have a lighter color, gray color, that's a softer. So you can see these colors as you see in a slit lamp as such. Subsequently, incision making, this is what you see on the table. I have a free floating nucleotomy, the nucleus being rotated. Subsequently, inject dispersive viscoelastic, create a soft cell area. Soft cell will protect the endothelium better. It's not that laser surgery doesn't require a soft cell technique. Any surgery you should do a soft cell to prevent any damage to the endothelium in difficult scenarios. So I'll make a little trench or groove here. These are a grid here, so this also becomes very, very effective. And I know that this is my incision area. You can see how effectively incision opens up right through and through, and the bubbles are released. Subsequently rotate here and chop again in these cases. So this is the effective way of handling a hard cataract, where you have a pre-chop and pre-fragmentation, both in these cases, the matrix grid pattern, and surgery can be completed very, very effectively in these cases. And see, this is we are having around 21, 23 CD. Normally in a manual surgery, this will be around 35, 40 CD in my machine with a Centurion system. So this is a post-op period. You can see this is a trifocal lens been put in the case. What about other indications? Pediatric I have not done myself because it requires GA application. But I have used them in a in situ phakic iris, like a ICL or a very sized lens, iris clip lenses, requiring cataract surgery for various indications for vitreoretinal surgeries. Before opening or removing the ICL, I can make the capsulotomy and fragmentation. You can see here, I have already done the ICL inside the eye. So once I have done opening the incision, I'll inject viscoelastic underneath the ICL to lift the ICL up from the anterior capsule, so that I can detach one of the haptics from below the iris. Once that is detached, I can hold it the McPherson and simply pull it through this 2.2 millimeter incision done with the laser here. It comes out very effectively. And it subsequently can do surgery very effectively now. You don't have to make a larger opening in cases with this. Even with the very size also, we do an application laser first, then remove the lens subsequently. If this is a soft cataract requiring surgery for a vitreoretinal purpose, you can aspirate this entire thing and subsequently you can implant the lens effectively in these cases also. So you have a wide range of application of laser in different case scenarios. I appreciate people who would have seen those difficult cases, how effectively laser helps you in doing an effective phaco in these cases. and the use of energy also is decreased in these cases. Just to summarize the entire establishment of flex or a femtosecond assisting the phacosurgery or managing the cataract in these cases, I'll put in a three categories. The first thing, application of flex has increased in all types of cataracts, right from the pediatric to a normal cataract or patient desiring a femtosecond cases, because sometimes patient would demand femtosecond laser surgery for themselves. And because this is like a routine surgery as such, and it has an enhanced safety in challenging scenario, which I showed you in our wide cataracts, posterior polar, hard cataracts, compromised endothelial cases, subluxated cases also. And we know that femtosecond laser is going to stay. This is the future technique for assisting cataract surgery. The young generation who are attached to us today, they should go with the mindset they would need these devices in future, because surgery has to be more customized, more precise, so the outcome improves through your hand, through those machines, and patient benefit. This same scenario was there when we shifted from ICC to ECC, then ECC to phaco. People had to graduate into a modern technology, but modern services provided by these machines. So I would say that people say this is a bladeless cataract surgery. It's not bladeless cataract surgery. It is a different technology. It is making things beyond blades. It's not incision only. It's making capsulotomy, nuclear fragmentation, better shaping of a capsular bag. Therefore, the precision automation is better. The next is future. How does the future will hold? As I said, this is going to be there. Individual treatment pattern can be customized for a type-to-type cases, right from the corner curvature, astigmatism control, getting attached to image-guided systems, or abrometry attached to these systems, or making customization of capsulotomies in these cases for a small pupil, for a larger pupil, a patient with subluxation, patient with posterior polar cataracts. Similarly, you can have integrated artificial intelligence coming in these cases so that everything can be more customized for future. So it has a lot of things to be attached for a cataract surgery. So people should go in a mind, cataract surgery is one of the most effective surgery in a human body in terms of outcome wise, because you can make a person see better than what he or she used to see with cataract. In fact, they can get back to a younger age because the clarity of vision is so good with these newer generation devices and the intraocular lenses which we have been using in these cases. I would say thank you again for listening to entire talk.